What about the games? Every week we get closer to Quest 3's release, my anticipation continues to grow. I did a previous video of my predictions for Quest 3's launch games, including the tinfoil hat conspiracy about Meta's partnership with Microsoft. In this video, the first of several, we're going to go over my personal wish list of Quest 3 games. After you finish this video, I'd love to get your Quest 3 wish list down in the comments. Before anyone asks, I'm skipping the No Chance in Hell entries, like the Vertigo series and Half-Life Alyx. Also, while I would love to see a sequel to Stormland, the developer of that game, Insomniac Games, is owned by Sony and is way too busy making Spider-Man games. So that goes in the No Chance in Hell category as well. With that said, and in no particular order, number 1. Number 1, Halo. This is slightly better than No Chance in Hell due to Meta's partnership with Microsoft. Meta and Microsoft have both said they're bringing Xbox cloud gaming to the Quest platform, wherein you can play games from your Xbox library in VR on a virtual screen. Now if you're thinking what's the point of a native VR Halo game when I could just play the flat screen version of my headset, I'd argue you have not played enough VR shooters. Virtual reality takes FPS games to a whole new level. Shooters are arguably the most popular genre in VR. It feels like every 3 months we see a swath of gamers flock to the new FPS game in early access, from Alvo to Veil to Ghost of Tabor to Breachers. Halo Infinite may not have been the franchise Viagra Microsoft was hoping for, but the name still carries a ton of weight, and I can fairly confidently say that as you're watching or listening to this video, there are more people online right now playing Halo than any VR shooter. The VR community has been screaming for big name developers and franchises to come to VR. The Quest port of Resident Evil 4 sold like hotcakes, as did Iron Man VR, Among Us VR, NFL Pro Era, and pretty much any game with a recognizable name. Younger viewers may not believe this, but when the first Xbox launched over 20 years ago, nobody really cared about it until they saw Halo. Halo was what we call a system seller. The closest thing we have to that in VR today is Beat Saber, and for a short time a few years ago, Half-Life Alyx. The millions of people who love Halo and have for years could be inclined to get the Quest 3 just to play Halo, and then Halo becomes a gateway to fall in love with VR as a whole. Even if those people never leave the shooter genre, there's still plenty for them to play and the player base overall grows. Microsoft also gets a foothold in VR with very little invested, just like if they allow the VR port of number 2. Number 2, Gears of War. I mentioned the Quest 2 port of Resident Evil 4 earlier. The company that developed that port, Armature Studios, has a history of porting big name franchises to mobile hardware with several titles on PlayStation Vita. Oh, and by the way, Armature is owned by Meta. It could either be a direct port like Resident Evil, or an original story set in the universe like Jurassic World Aftermath, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, or Horizon Call of the Mountain. Either create an original character and tell a side story with tie-ins to the main arc, or do a series like Uncharted and Resident Evil have done in the past, taking the character from a previous game and building a full game around them. Either way, the Gears series blend of high-octane action, fun characters, and large-scale enemies is a natural fit for VR. Also, bringing that series into VR, just like Halo, will garner a lot of attention from Xbox fans who would otherwise not be interested in getting the Quest 3. Number 3. Number 3, Moss Book 3. The Moss games, along with PSVR 1's Astrobot, prove that third-party platforming has a home in VR if the game is well designed and, more importantly, if the main character is memorable. I've said forever that Moss's protagonist, Quill, could easily become the definitive mascot for VR with the right marketing, similar to Mario being synonymous with Nintendo. Spin Quill and her world into multiple genres like we see with Nintendo's flagship characters. Apparently, developer Polyart Games has gotten a hint, as they recently announced that their next project is a multiplayer game supposedly set in the Moss universe. While I'm really looking forward to that game and I expect it to do well, I can't wait to return to Quill's story. The second game, without giving too much away, ends on a note that sets up a third entry. Moss is a shining example that VR is much more than rhythm games and shooters. I'll be a happy camper if I'm playing Moss Book 8 when I'm in my 50s, just like I've been playing Zelda games for the last 30 years. Speaking of sequels I'm clamoring for, number 4. Number 4, a sequel to Asgard's Wrath. The community ran wild with speculation of the video teaser Meta dropped for their next gaming showcase, which seemed to hint to something related to Asgard's Wrath with what we all believe to be Loki's helmet in the foreground. That, along with the desert setting, suggested a tie-in to the tease at the end of Asgard's Wrath, and let me tell you, I'm totally here for it. Asgard's Wrath was an incredible game, and while I would welcome a port on Quest 3, selfishly, and I can be selfish because this is my wish list, I'm ready for something new. I mentioned in my launch lineup video that Meta has a trademark on the name Worlds of Wrath, and again, there's a clear teaser of a follow-up with ties to Egyptian mythology. Come on Meta, just make it happen. And while we're at it, make number 5 happen too. Number 5, an Avengers game. We've gotten some Marvel VR experiences in the past, like Avengers Damage Control at The Void, which sadly is no longer in business, a Spider-Man experience based on the Tom Holland movies, the 360-degree experience Battles for Avengers Tower on Samsung Gear, the aforementioned Iron Man VR, and the now defunct Marvel's Powers United on Oculus Rift. Marvel Powers United was made by Sanzaru Games, also the developers of Asgard's Wrath. It was a co-op arena combat game for up to 4 players where you teamed up to complete basic objectives and occasionally fight Marvel supervillains. It was criticized for being repetitive and a bit too basic for what fans were looking for. My vision of an Avengers game takes the template of Asgard's Wrath and applies it to Marvel's heroes. Imagine, in the first stage, you're playing as Black Panther with all of those abilities on a mission in Wakanda. Then in stage 2, you embody Thor on an adventure in and around Asgard. Stage 3, you play as Black Widow on a spy mission, and so on, and so on. With all the separate missions playing into one big story and the team coming together for a grand battle at the end. I have no idea if Meta still has a license to make Marvel games, I'm just wishlisting here. These are just some of the games I would love to see on Quest 3. I'll put one of these videos out every few weeks leading up to Quest 3's launch. I'd love to get your wishlist down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, let me know with a like and subscribe for more Quest 3 coverage. This channel will be heavy on Quest 3 content leading up to the headset's release. Thanks for watching, catch you on the next one.